guy. I'm the regional sales manager, but because we're pretty tight on our office in terms of personnel, it's not uncommon to get me on the phone when I'm not traveling. You know, I kind of help in. I'm doing exactly what the inside sales guys do because I'm there. You know, and a lot of times people want to deal with me. I'll get involved with the technical stuff with engineers, working with engineering to designing our products in, and working with end customers when there's problems. That always happens.
So is everybody here?
Okay.
Are we filming?
No.
It's already on.
Sorry.
It's already on.
Okay, so my name is Andrew Morrow. I'm an independent manufacturer's rep. I don't have any inventory. I don't do any buy-sell. So I'm just literally a catalog and a handshake. Glorified salesperson. I don't have anybody working with me. So those are the lines that I do represent. I've been doing it this is my 24th year. My father started my company in '75. He worked for Bonnie Ford. He was the Bonnie Ford sales manager from '65 to '75. My brother is a waterworks rep. I've been working with Keckley now since the end of 2015, so a little over three and a half years. Mike hired me. It's been a really good working relationship. Our sales has improved for my territory since we've been working together, but with your company, you've been stocking our product a long time, and it's remained a little flat with your company. So we need to kind of see if we can work together and improve that. These guys are very good at working with distributors and making sure that we help the distributors out to work with the end users and get our product into the marketplace. And Mike does a real good job with that. He's always available. We'll come in and see an end user if he has to. I will help with that as well. But let's see if we can work together and get some of our products and try to beat our competition a little bit more. So that's why we're doing this. We've done this with other distributors, and it's been successful. And Mike flew in today in the wind, so
This kind of a ride, you know.
and he's great at helping out with quotes all the time. So feel free to use him. He's inside mainly, but he makes outside calls as well.
Yeah, about 25% of the time I travel out in the territory. It's usually only a couple of days, you know. Most of the time I'm inside.
But I'm on the road all the time, so you're better off. You'll get better service if you call Mike or somebody at the factory. But if you ever have an issue, definitely call me and let me know what's going on. So, but get your quotes direct.
Yeah. And if you get like if you were to send me an email today, you'll see I'm out of the office. It'll say, hey, you can send quotes to sales@keckley.com, and then someone in inside sales will grab that, and we usually turn those quotes around. As long as it's not something fabricated or very unique, those quotes should be turned around in an hour.
Right.
You know, so, but yeah, I mean that's.
But Mike will go over our whole product line in detail, so you guys, I know some of you are newer than others, but so you know exactly what we sell, and maybe you might be missing out on something here or there, and just let you know what we have in case, okay? And if you ever need any literature or anything, I'm always...
Yeah, I'm going to pass this stuff out, and we'll get this stuff into your hands at the very end. I would decide to go over this because we were filming it rather than just going strictly from these, but a lot of times I can just train right from this brochure, which gives everything that we do in a snapshot, which is nice. You have to pull out a big catalog. But anyway, yeah, I'm gonna jump right in.
Let's hand those out now.
Oh, go ahead. So we'll talk about those too. That's a really nice piece to have because at a snapshot you can see what we offer. So anyway, Keckley's been around a long time, 100+ years. So I've been doing this for many years. This kind of just goes over very quickly what we'll kind of cover here, and we'll go through each one of these product categories fairly quickly. So if you have a question, stop me, and we'll dive a little deeper into it. The biggest thing I want you to take away from this is that Keckley has inventory. So, and as Andrew said, we support distribution. We don't sell anything direct. If we get end users coming to us they go to our website and they fill out a form that says requesting a quote or I want more information. We look in the territory. Hey, it's by York, PA. It goes to you guys, or I send it to Andrew and he lets you guys know. So you guys would be the ones to get the lead. And we'll basically, in so many words, grease the skids for you by basically going in and giving that end user all the information. This is what you're looking for. Sometimes they ask for things that we don't have, and then what I'll do is I'll say, here's what you're going to be asking for. This is what we offer. I've got stock. Now I'm going to send you to distribution, and they're going to give you the price.
So I get about 5 or 6 of these calls a week of the end users coming to our website, and I call them, and then after they send me an email, and I feel them out as to, first of all, where they are, and secondly, what distributors they normally deal with, and then I give them a salesperson's name.
Yep.
That happens all the time.
Yeah, because I think in a lot of cases it could be an engineering firm that's specifying our product on a project. It could be a contractor who just needs a price. I just need to buy a basket strainer. Simple as that. It could be, the end users, an OEM that's designing something and has questions. So usually I try and get that guy ready before I get it to Andrew and to you guys, and then the pricing becomes very easy. You already have a part number and they already know it's in stock. All they need to do is get a price. But the biggest thing here, the inventory. No joke, this is what it looks like in our factory. I mean, it's just rows and rows of product. What's that mean for you? When you place an order, it usually ships within a couple days. That's very important. I mean, service is what we all banking on, right? We want to get these products in the customer's hands as quick as possible. We have so much product that if you were to call in, you might have one of our inside sales people, or even myself, say that it might take a day or two to get it out, and that's because we have a secondary warehouse. We were busting at the seams. So we have a Keckley truck that makes the milk run, as I call it, twice a day. Once at about 7 in the morning, and then once at about 12:30. So we capture orders that came in the night before, or orders that came in right before lunch. And then what we do is we bring it to, we can't ship out of the other location, it's just strictly warehouse. We get it to the Skokie facility, the one that's on my card, and again, 10 minutes down the road, we bring it in, do whatever we have to do, get it out the door. Okay? There's a lot of information, but we're going to make it very easy. Y strainers is still, if you look at the scope, I don't have some fancy pie chart to show you, but when you think about Keckley, still 60% of what we do is Y strainers, basket strainers, fabricated strainers, duplex strainers, temporary strainers. Strainers is still 60% of everything we do. We have other lines that we're going to go over so you have a good scope of what everything is, but this is still our number one. And just so you, I know some of you guys are new, so I'll make it real simple too. Basically, the reason why you put one of these in line, so you have your flow going from left to right, and down here somewhere is a piece of capital equipment, a pump or something that you want to protect. This Y strainer, the media comes in and goes out there, and whatever we want to take out, whatever debris we want to remove from the line gets caught in that screen. Simple as that. And you'll see on a basket strainer, it's the same thing, it's just a basket strainer. But Y strainers, that's what it is. When we talk about terminology, screens, and I call this the strainer. The whole thing is the strainer, I call that the screen. That's a replaceable part. We build and ship those all day long, and then you have a gasket that's right here. Those are the two items that probably get ordered the most from us because somebody's always changing out a screen or they take it out and they clean it out. The other way they might do it on a Y strainer is you notice how there's a open hole right here. That's what we call the blow-off connection. Instead of having to remove this cover, take a screen out, clean it, put it back in, bolt it back up, they could put a nipple and a ball valve on that, and they could just blow the debris out. So they might have this Y strainer sitting down low in line, and then they have that ball valve kind of pointing toward a drain, and they could just literally blow the debris out with the pressure from the system. That's why you have those blow-off connections on all these That one doesn't have it, but every one of these has a blow-off connection. Okay? So, lots of sizes, right? We go 1/4 inch all the way up to 24 inch. Threaded, butt weld, socket weld, and flanged end connections, okay? The class is just your class of flange or, 250-pound threaded or 150-pound flange. So different class of strainer that we have, and that's to handle the pressure. And now we're talking about pressure. 150 is obviously not going to handle a certain amount. The 1500 is going to be high pressure, like 3700 pressure. We can handle a very high pressure line. This is the main thing you want to look at. Standard materials: cast iron, bronze, lead-free bronze, ductile iron, carbon steel, and stainless. Those are the main ones that are going to be on the shelf. But in some instances, you're going to have people that want something unique, right? So they're going to want an alloy 20 or a Monel or a chromatic. Titanium. You know what? You want to sell titanium strainers. Really expensive. It's got to be on the right line, right? It depends on the application. That's why you would use a different type of material versus like cast iron, which isn't going to be able to hold up to certain medias. Multiple perfs and meshes. That's our screens. We build them all day long. A couple days out the door after an order comes in. And then standard gaskets. Here's the other thing that's always going to come up when you're dealing with customers: domestic and import. Sometimes this is a big no-no, right? Oh, it can't be from China. Okay. Meets the 51% Buy American. So we offer both types. Not in every single one of them. I won't go through all that, but there are certain ones that we only offer one way. Our bronze in the lower pound class, 125 pound, and lead-free, only available as an import. If they have to have domestic, we go to an F or an E300. That's a 250 pound. It's a heavier class bronze. That's 100% domestic. Most of the time you don't get that divide. Usually it's one or the other, import or a meets the 51% Buy American. The meets the 51% Buy American is good for the vast majority of stuff. If someone tells you they want domestic, all they want to make sure is it doesn't have China or Ho Chi Minh Trail stamped on the thing, right? It's got to be not China. That's usually the taboo. But what do you think the difference is? Cost, right? My meets the 51% Buy American is going to be more money than that import. So some people don't care, some do. We're going to go through these quick. These are just visuals, right? Remember we talked about the line? Here's the flow. This is a 10-inch, 125-pound cast iron in line. We got the flow arrow so we know which way it goes. You could put these things in a vertical position, but you'd always want to have the Y pointing down. So as long as the flow is coming down this way and not going up, obviously you don't want to have your Y strainer pointing up. There's an instance where they have the ball valve there to blow the debris out. Okay? They don't want to have to open a 10-inch each time. Okay? Basket strainers. So we talked about Y strainers, basket strainers, same thing. Your flow comes in, the debris gets caught into the basket, and then clean out the other way. That's actually a weird picture because it's reversed. Typically your flow is from left to right. So this would be like that. And instead, on the basket strainer, you'll notice that's a drain. That's not a blow-off connection. That's just they have to open that drain to drain whatever media is in there before they open this. Also, we'll depressurize that, right? They open that little drain, let it all drain out, and then they can open the top cover, pull the screen out, clean it, put it back. Question always comes up, why use a basket strainer over a Y strainer? It's really pretty much preference. Sometimes they want to have a basket strainer, sometimes they want to use a Y.
Looks
So-
like basket strainers take up less space too.
Yeah, they could. It could have when we talk about face-to-face dimensions, that's the flange to flange. Yeah, it could be less. But you can't hook a ball valve to it and blow the debris out. You have to remove the cover. And if you look in those in this brochure, up at the top here where it says basket strainers, you'll see that if some of those have knobs on the top, that's a hand tightening knob. So they can do that with, you don't have to pull a wrench out to open that thing up. That becomes a very big selling point for people putting in basket strainers, because that, now I don't have to turn a wrench. I can just hand tighten, but your pressure's lower. You're not going to be able to get that in a 300-pound flange. You have to do that in a 150. You can't have high pressure with those hand tightening knobs. This picture doesn't show it, but just so you know that is an option. It doesn't always have to be a bolted cover. Once again, sizes 1/4 inch to 30 inch. When you get to 30 inch, it's fabricated. So that you just want to make sure that we don't have a cast unit that's 30 inch. Same deal on the connections: threaded, butt weld, socket weld, and flange. 150 pound all the way up to 1,500 pound. And then our standard materials looks kind of like our last slide, right? Cast iron, ductile iron, bronze, lead-free bronze, carbon steel, stainless steel. We can get the exotic alloys if we need to. Multiple perfs and meshes. We make screens all day long. And standard gaskets. We supply standard gaskets. There are special gaskets you can get too, but depends on the application, and domestic and import available. Okay.
And there's all types of applications. I mean, these things are found in high-rise buildings, universities, hospitals.
I'll give you one. Hershey's.
Hershey's.
Chocolate.
Yeah.
They have now in the chocolate. You tell me it's going into a plant that's producing chocolate. The first thing I'm going to tell you is it's going to be stainless steel. They don't want to have carbon steel or anything, cast iron. It's going to be a stainless steel basket strainer, and they use them.
Right. But a new high-rise building in Philadelphia will have $100,000 worth of cast iron strainers.
And again, why are they putting in Y strainers and basket strainers? Because they want to protect some capital equipment downstream, period. You know, and we'll talk a little bit about other ways to do it too. You know, there's a couple other ways. This just shows one in line. Once again, they have a ball valve there, but that's just strictly to drain it. It's not to blow the debris out. They still have to remove a cover. That's a 10-inch. That's a carbon steel unit on a line.
A lot of times how that looks great and new and everything, a lot of times these contractors will find one that doesn't look new and it looks like it's been there for 30 years, but it'll say Keckley on it,
Yeah.
and they'll call you to replace it as a Keckley.
A screen or a gasket. Now that's where things get a little tricky. Sometimes you call in and you say, I've got a guy who needs a replacement screen. Is it a Keckley? Yeah. Okay. Which one is it? I don't know. Okay, we got to find that out. We got to find out what it is. Sometimes there's insulation on these. They sit out in a plant or somewhere there's insulation. We got to find out what it is. We can always take the dimensional measurements. That's a little more work than just saying, oh, it's an SGFV, it's a carbon steel, or it's a D, or an A7 or something. So those are things that'll come up when you're ordering screens and gaskets. We got to identify what it is so we make the screen to the right dimensions. They're all different. Every screen is different, and every screen is different from us to our competitors. So if it's Mueller or Titan, our screens don't fit theirs, theirs don't fit us. What we can do is we can build screens for our competitors, but because we don't have a master file, we do need the dimensions on that, and we can build those if it ever comes up. Ideally, you could just go right to them too, but I mean, we do it. Duplex strainers, just like our Ys and our basket strainers, we have a duplex strainer. Why use a duplex over a regular basket strainer or simplex basket strainer? Because you have continuous flow. So you can see here's the flange of the unit, and then you see two chambers, and you see this handle. That handle is to divert flow from one chamber to the other. Now I don't have to shut down my system to clean out our basket strainer from a couple slides ago. Now all I have to do is move it to the one side, and then the one side gets drained. There's a drain. Doesn't show it very well, but we drain that chamber, take the screen out, clean it, put it back in, move the handle to the other side, and do the same on the opposite side. Continuous flow. What I want to instill on this though is, this isn't cheap. We've got moving parts inside of here. Okay? This is a fabricated unit. utilizing butterfly valves to divert the flow. We build these in Skokie. These are honking big units. Very, very, very robust, and they're great units, but this stuff isn't cheap. I mean, you're starting to get into these type of strainers, you're going to see it's pretty much triple the price of a simplex basket strainer, right? So, you know, usually I tell the end customers when they call, don't fall out of your chair when you get the price, because it's expensive, okay? Now you're going to notice something. First of all, this slide sucks. Whoever did it, it's not correct. You can remove butt weld and socket weld, okay? We don't offer those in butt weld and socket weld. Threaded and flanged, period. Okay. You want to do some kind of butt weld, we could probably do it on a fabricated unit, but not on a cast unit. They're only available that way. 3/4 inch to 24 inch in size, 150-pound class. When we get into the 300-pound class or a 600-pound class, fabricated. We're no longer in the cast units. Of course, this guy sits in the cast unit slide, but let's just assume he didn't. We go fabricate if that happens. Multiple perfs and import and domestic. The main ones you're going to have here, cast iron, carbon steel, and stainless, period. If somebody needed something different, we could do it, you know, they're not cheap. And now you're starting to get into those exotics, it becomes very expensive.
And we have 5 full-time ASME welders that do.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. So, fabricated. Andrew's my lead-in. When we're talking about fabricated strainers, Ys, Ts are always going to be, we don't have any of those on the thing. It looks just like a T, right? And the screen sits like this. Once again, flow from left to right. Captures the stuff, you pull it out. That's a simplex strainer. A little different design. 2 inch through 30 inch. Flanged, butt weld, RTJ, whatever you want to get, we can make it. We could do even higher than 2,500 because we're building it. We're procuring pipe, we're bringing it in-house. One of our 5 ASME certified welders, they weld it and put it together. The general rule of thumb on those, because it's a rotating schedule that we have with our welders, general rule of thumb, T-strainers are usually the quickest. It's the fastest one that we can build. Those usually are an estimated lead time of about, in the small sizes, in a small volume, could probably do it in 4 to 6 weeks. On the high end, 8 to 10. All the others would be 8 to 10. Even on a duplex, about 8 to 10 weeks is a good rule of thumb. So if your guy calls you and says, hey, I need a fabricated duplex strainer and I need it in 2 weeks, you didn't plan well, because now we're not going to be able to do that. Okay? We're going to show you a couple other things here that we do, but the fabricated really gives us a lot of flexibility. We can take a simplex strainer, a carbon steel or a stainless, and we could add taps on the inlet and outlet, so they can put gauges on there. So they could put a gauge. They'll ask for like a 1/4 inch tap, NPT tap. We can tap into those on a cast unit. We can add them in on a fabricated. And that's just so they have a gauge. So the guy can see when there's pressure loss from our inlet to our outlet, he can look at that gauge and go, hey, I got pressure loss here. I'm losing pressure. I might have to clean that screen, right? Because if it builds up enough, the screen will collapse. There's a lot of pictures here now. We're getting into the picture portion. You see the welders working. 2 welders are doing smaller diameter stuff. 3 welders really get involved in the big diameter stuff. This is just more stuff. I'm not going to dig deep into this, but these are things you would see on a specification. If you see something that says code stamp or use stamp, that's when it's a pressurized vessel and it has to be fabricated. So if you see that, you automatically know it's not going to be a cast unit. It won't be out of the catalog. It's fabricated. When you see that, we do that in-house. A lot of our competitors don't do that in-house. They don't go and do they're not a certified code shop. This is the other thing that'll tip you off. ASME Section 8 Division 1. You see that, it's fabricated, period. You'll see a spec and you'll go, what does all that mean? Fabricated. You send it over and we'll get it quoted for you.
So if any of your customers ask you if you sell fabricated strainers, absolutely you do. Just have them send you the inquiry. Some of these pieces got to be 30.
You get it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's really pretty simple. After our engineering gets it, when we get you a quote, when your customer wants to move forward, we produce a regular line drawing with all the details. So they have all the dimensions with a signature box. They sign it, place the PO with you, and you guys just sit back and wait for it to be done.
Don't let the word fabrication get scared away.
Yeah. We talked about another way to do it, temporary strainers. All temporary strainers are built to order. We build them in-house. They are built and they're done in about 2 weeks, maybe 3, depending on our production schedule. Here's the terminology you're going to hear them called. Witches' hats. Looks like a witch's hat. Pilgrim hat. Looks like a pilgrim hat. So these are used primarily in startup. So the guy puts together a line, he's got piping all over. Before he clicks that switch on, he calls up and he goes, yeah, I need an 18-inch temporary cone strainer. He puts it in line, turns the switch on, the line starts, all that stuff that's in the line, all that debris, all that junk that hasn't been cleaned out gets captured in the temporary cone strainer. This thing sits between 2 flanges, right? When they're done with the startup, they take that out and they put something permanent, like a simplex strainer or a Y strainer or a duplex strainer. So you'll often see these are called startup strainers. So you say to yourself, wow, that seems like a lot of work, right? We're going to build this 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we're going to put it in line, we're going to turn the system on, all the junk's going to get caught, and we're going to take it and we're going to throw it away. That's what they're supposed to do. Not everybody does that. Some people leave it in permanently. But they got to remember to take it out and clean it because stuff is getting stuck in there. The other thing is there's the newest thing that you're going to see. I've seen it, I've been with Keckley 10 years, and I started seeing it within my 2nd year there. People want to bypass having to do this. So if they bypass, they don't want to use a temporary strainer, what they do is they get a Y strainer, and then their description on the screen is going to be 40 mesh lightly tack welded for startup. So what happens there is instead of putting that in line, they already got the piping laid out for a Y strainer, turn the system on, all the junk gets caught in that screen, turn the system off, take out that screen, lightly tack welded. We've welded an interior screen to that, and I'll show you what one looks like. We'll show and tell here. And what they'll do is they'll tear that out. They actually tear that lining out of it, and then they're left with like a 1/8 perf. It's like almost looks like a dual screen. Here's a again, that's just kind of shows you how we do 2 screens. That's what they call a mesh line screen. So they've just eliminated this whole thing. Now I don't have to do all that with the temporary. My Y strainer's already in line, the face-to-face is already set, and I just take a pair of pliers, tear out that mesh, I'm left with that exterior 1/8 perf, pop it back in my Y strainer and go. So you'll see that. You'll see it on specs. I see it all the time. Sometimes they'll get fancy on the specs and they might say, after startup screen is pulled out, we want 50% open area. Well, we have a way to do that by changing the perf to a 3/16 perf instead of a 1/8. And now that's their area, their surface area through the screen, okay? So, carbon steel and stainless are 2 main. Yeah, there's some guys out there that'll come and ask us for an alloy 20. Why? You're throwing it away. You're going to take that thing and throw it away. You're going to spend all that money. We'll build it. They usually don't. Carbon's the most common, 304 or 316. And again, multiple perfs and meshes. One thing you want to remember, you'll get this question if you call in, you say I want a temporary cone strainer and I want it 40 mesh line. And I might say to you, do they want the mesh on the interior or the exterior of the cone? And you're thinking, well, that's a dumb question. It really isn't. It depends on the orientation of that cone. You would assume the cone is facing with the flow. So all the stuff is going inside. The mesh has to be lined on the interior. Not always. Sometimes they don't have the room to go that way. So they invert it, and then they put the point that's facing toward the flow, meshed on the outside. Makes a difference. That's a question that'll come up, and you'll go, that's dumb. Nah, not really. This just shows you some of the stuff we did. We'll get through this stuff quick. The rest of this really kind of moves along because we're going to go into the other products. We do a lot of specialty stuff. These are all fabricated special strainers. Sandblasting and epoxy coating, yes, we do it. Stainless steel tagging, yes, we do it. Earthquake proof, huh? Yeah, we do it. See these legs? That's very unusual to have 6 legs like that. This was for a job in California. Hey, they got earthquakes there. Earthquake proof. There's bolt holes there. They bolt that stuff in. So now if there's an earthquake, the sky is falling, and this thing's moving, it doesn't come apart. We'll do it. This is for a polysilicone plant. This was just one that's showing that we were able to do some nitrogen purging. This stuff is, you'll know when you see it, you'll go, what the hell is that? We can do it. So you'll see gauges on these, and these are all laid out on pallets. Very, very big job that we did. That's strainers. Any questions on strainers? Anything that's burning you? That's what you guys buy the most from us. If I looked at a history report, you guys are Ys, baskets, temporary cones, stuff like that. Okay? Switching gears. Check valves. Now, there's a lot of guys that do check valves. Takeaway for you guys is Keckley, very price competitive with the Nibcos and the Cranes of the world. That's what you guys probably would compete with most. There are 3 types that we really deal with. There's what we call the double door or double disc. That's just a double disc with a lug body. That's a wafer. And then we have a center guided. That's a center guided globe, and we also have a center guided wafer, which is a CW. That's a CG, that's a DD, that's a DD, that's actually a DL. But this is a CG, a globe style body, center guided. So there's a stem in the middle and the check valve goes up and down. Why do you use check valves? One reason. You want to prevent water hammer. You shut your system down, all that water starts going back, this check valve will close. You could have it on, I have one in my house. We have in Chicago, we have sump pumps. Well, I never want the backflow to come back, so I have a check valve. When the pressure comes the opposite way, it stops. No, nothing's getting through. So that's just a way to protect the line. You see check valves all over everything. 125 to 1500, 1500, that sounds really nice. We really do 125, 150, 300. Those are the ones that we really stock. Yeah, we do some 600s on some 600-pound reel. That's a lot of pressure. We do some, it's not common. Cast iron, carbon steel, stainless. Simple as that. These will often have a seat. Inside of that seat it'll be like a Buna or a Viton or an EPDM or no seat, metal to metal. They don't care if it, it's not like it's bubble tight.
I'm sure everybody knows we're in AD now, right? I forgot to mention that. Okay.
Knife gates. Knife gates. Why would you use one of these? Simple. Line isolation. Period. You got this gate that's going to sit in service. They could use a hand wheel or they could use a air actuator, and all they're doing is that gate comes down and stops the flow. But what you got to know is these are primarily used on slurries, yucky stuff, wastewater, cement plants, asphalt plants. Yeah, there's guys that use them in microbreweries. I've seen it. I've gone in them. They're like, what? Yeah, they use them in a microbrewery. Not ours, because in microbrewery, what does it have to be? It has to be FDA approved. Even if it's a fully stainless steel unit, you're not going to use ours. I don't know what's going through there. You want to drink your beer and die. You want to have, this is for slurries. Just nasty, nasty stuff. I like to say one thing. They're available as one way. It's an import. Check valves, import. Knife gates, import. Low cost, and carbon and stainless. That's it. Makes it very easy. You're going to bump into guys like Orfanos, Tyco, Line Valve, Velan. Those are your competitors. They have a huge breadth of offering. We have a very narrow scope. It's a low cost, it's an add-on. That's really all you need to know. If you're out there seeking knife gate opportunities, you'll see that we're limited in what we can do. It's very, I would call it very bare bones offering. Here's just a few other products that we offer. Suction diffusers and triple duty valves, these are always going to be on pump packages. You're going to bump into guys like Takeo and Bell & Gossett. If you're selling Keckley, whew, man, we're going to beat those guys by double digit. Super price competitive. Only available as an import, period. 125-pound cast iron, that's it. No carbon steel, no 300-pounders. That's how we offer it. Okay? And you'll know when somebody comes in asking for one of these things. It's under our website. It's under pump accessories. Okay? I'm not going to get into these really heavily, just so you know that we offer float and lever valves. We still sell a ton of these. These things will be in service for 30 years. 100% domestic. Back pressure and relief valves, yeah, we offer them. Typically for a lower pressures, 100% domestic, all built to order. These are probably a week out. If we have to do a larger size, you're probably looking at 3 to 4 weeks. These can go anywhere from 2 weeks up to 6 to 8 weeks to build them. Okay. Those are what we like to call, these are the legacy products. That's where Keckley started. Before we got into strainers, we were these. And we had a huge scope. Who are you going to bump into with these? Watson McDaniel, Spence. They got bigger offerings. Spyrix Sarco, right? That's where you guys there. Here, really nobody. Nobody still does industrial float and lever valves. You might get your customer who's looking at a Granger catalog, and he finds some, what I call some very small float and lever valve. That small float and lever valve, theirs is like a quarter of the price of yours. Not the same. They're different. They're low cost. They're not meant for heavy use. These are meant for heavy use. So just remember that. This is just like a basic approvals and end users that we've worked with. That's an eye chart. You don't really need to get fixated on it. Just know that we've worked with a lot of big companies. Getting Keckley on their specifications has always been kind of like my charter and the other regional guys that are there to get that stuff on there. But we don't sell direct. We're still going to refer them to you guys. You guys are taking those orders. Well, I'm going to move through this one real quick. This is the last item we have that we offer. It's going to be our ball valves. Ball valves have been around now for 5 years?
Yeah, about that.
4 years? I kind of lost track. This is one of those ones that we have to get on the AMLs. Okay? So this isn't your bronze, low-cost guys. That's not us. This is going to be, I'll pass one of these around. It's typically for higher pressure. Again, this is, you'll see what I'm showing you here. Two materials, carbon steel and stainless, that's it. Here's one of them. Why would we get into this? There's 100 guys that do ball valves. Why would we get into it? Because the stuff we do is really more specialty. It's not your bronze, it's not your low-cost stuff. Andrew's pulling out some flange stuff there. That's a honking big unit. And I'm going to make this super easy because I don't want you to worry about part numbers and all that other stuff. What did we do? We offered basically threaded and socket weld, stainless and carbon. Very simple. And each one, if you look at it, goes up in pressure. So look at that, 2160. Sometimes you'll see ball valves and they're rated at like 150 pounds. 2160, 2160. BVS2, 2160. BVS-C, why has that got a C? Because it's got a thicker wall, and we'll go in it quickly, but I'm just so you know, it's still 2160, but this becomes a different version. It's for higher, it's for, you're gonna know when you see these on specs. Then we move up to the 3, 3600. BVS 3, 3600. BVS 6, 2500 or 6000 PSI. High pressure, that's all you need to remember. Because if it's low pressure, they could come buy it from us, but it'd be overkill for their application. Once again, I'm not going to go through all these things. I'm just going to tell you why did we do it. The biggest thing is, see this weld right here? This is what they call a two-piece seal welded ball valve. That weld ensures that if somebody's doing work on a line and it's 2,000 pounds of pressure, that this thing is not going to come disassembled. Because if that thing ever came disassembled, the ball that's in there will shoot out and kill somebody. And it's happened. That's why two-piece seal weldeds came around. These are the guys like the James Berries, the Quadrants, KF. Right? Those are the guys that have these seal welded. This isn't going to be your Apollos. It's not going to be your Sharps. Right? Different realm, different stuff. Okay? So that's why we did it. That's the main reason. The number one reason is just the safety issue. The fact that this thing won't come apart. Yeah, these other things are important. A 360-degree weld. Okay, we went all the way around. Right? Pickled and passivated. Yeah, there's a process. Once you do that, it has to be cured. So I don't want you to get too fixated on that. That just gives you an idea. And we'll go through them quick. Entry levels are BVS 2, 2160. That's all the features that come with it. Full port, seal welded, standard NACE. That'll come up on a specification. Fire safe, we got it. Easy to automate. Why? Because we got the mounting pads already on the top of it. You could easily put an actuator on it. Full port at a reduced port price. That's a salesy thing, right? Up to 2-inch. That's our size. Okay. We also offer these in 2.5, 3, and 4. Very, very rare. Who the hell wants to thread a 4-inch? But we do offer them. And notice the bar or the lever on it, right? So you have more leverage. Bigger bar, not like those. If you're looking at the competition on a BVS 2 versus all the specs I just showed you, full port, those guys go away. API 607 fire safe, you'll see that on a spec. Those guys go. Last but not least, 2160. Most are rated to 2000. Ours goes a little bit above. Everybody else is gone. That's why we released it, because there's no competition on that. Holy moly, that is an ugly slide. All you need to know is two things. I just showed you our BVS 2. Okay? Every ball valve that I talk about now is going to be ASME B1634 and API 608. What does that mean? This is all the criteria for B1634. That's the criteria for API 608. You will see it on a spec. That's all you need to know. When you know it, this is the best way to think about it too. B1634, if you were thinking about college, this is your bachelor's degree. Can't have this. You can't have that without having this. That's your master's degree. Okay? Have to have, all this has to apply before you can get to API 608. And you will see it on a spec. That's all you need to know. Because when you see it, you know the BVS 2 is not going to be your guy. Now we're going into these guys. And we'll run through these very, very quickly. That's ugly. You don't want to look at that. BVSC. Remember I told you it's just like the BVS 2? That wall thickness, that's the biggest thing. It's meant for oil and gas. It's power gen. There's certain applications that have to have the B1634 and the API 608, and this guy's got it. If we see that on a spec, I'm not going to sell you the BVS 2, I'm selling you the BVSC. Looks like our last slide, except that bullet point, right? B1634 and API 608 compliant, period. Everything else looks the same. And our competition elimination slide tells me there is no equal in a full port. People got it in a reduced port, but they don't have it in a full port. We're the only guy that has it. Okay? Nice selling advantage. BVS 3, 3600, we're going up in class, right? Same thick wall, same B1634, same API 608. This slide looks very, very similar. Up to 2-inch, standard locking handles. We offer a peak seat because the seats on the other one are RPTFE, or reinforced Teflon. Here, they're going to be Delrin AF, and we also offer it with a peak seats because we have either higher temperature or higher pressure. We're going to move to a different seat. That's the only difference. Competition elimination slide. Our list is getting smaller. 607 fire safe, those guys go. 1634, goodbye. API 608, see ya. Boom. Drop the mic. There it is, right? Last one, BVS 6. 6,000 PSI. Right? Now we're talking the Exxons of the world, the BPs. Big guys. Got to go meet with them, which we've done. Get on their AML, which we've done. The pull-through is with you guys. And you will see it. Believe me, you'll see it on a spec. B1634. Yeah, that Mike guy from Chicago talked about that. APS 608. There it is. Up to 2-inch, standard NACE, standard fire, all that stuff you always see. Standard peak. It's offered with peak. Nobody's ever going to ask for this thing in a Delrin AF or a reinforced stuff. It's going to be peak. That's the way we stock it. Competition elimination slide. Our list got a little smaller, right? A few less people. API 607, goodbye. API or ASMA B1634, AOP goes. 608, Vintral, goodbye. Okay. You just saw the one that Andrew handled. Unibody. 150 and 300 pound. When we talk about a unibody, the first thing you should think of is reduced port. Nobody offers a unibody in a full port. It's always going to be a reduced port. One piece unibody, one piece ball valve. Okay? Much like the other one, we show the reduced port, but we know it's 1634 and 608, up to 6-inch. The rest of it's all the same, right? Direct mount actuation, right? Just like the other one has the mounting pads, that one has one. Easy to actuate. So, carbon steel stainless, easy, right? Two materials. Why do we offer a split body? Because we want to have full port. You have full port, you're putting two pieces together. Split body can be full port. Unibody, always reduced. I get that question a lot. People calling, no, you guys got ball valves. Yeah, I need a full port unibody. Nah, we're going to get you a split body. Full port. Up to 8-inch. Now we get a little bit larger in size. That's where we stop those 8-inch. I had a guy that sent a spec in last week and it was like for a 10-inch or a 12-inch. Not us. But everything else, once again, all this stuff kind of falls in line. You know, I definitely don't want to bore you with all that stuff. That's a lot of stuff. And this is really, it says future products. We actually do offer a 3-piece. That's just a maintenance valve, right? When you have a 3-piece ball valve, that means somebody can take it apart and do the maintenance on it. That's all. Trunnions isn't going to happen. I don't know if it ever will happen. That's really oil and gas, right? When you're talking trunnions, those are big honking units. So, and that's it. Yeah, we're just lying to you. We're just telling you we'll do whatever, but we won't. And that is 40 minutes of your life you'll never get back. But the good news is you guys have a real good scope of what we offer. And the biggest thing I think you walk away from this is strainers, they do them. Check valves, price competitive, and we got them on the shelf. Up to 24-inch in some of those. Knife gates, you kind of shrug, and if you bump into them, we'll see if we can help you. The legacy products are there. Pump accessories, very low cost. And then the ball valves, like I said, it's a newer line for us. Now you can see why we got into it, because we knew the guy that developed these ball valves used to work for Milwaukee, used to work for...
Quadrant.
Well, started Quadrant. And then Forum said, hey, look at this Quadrant guy, 18 million. Let's go buy him. Forum bought Quadrant. Well, you know, if it's your baby and you brought it from the ground up, you want somebody else telling you what to do? Yeah, he didn't. He didn't last very long in there. And then he was out. And then he started talking to our owners, and he goes, hey, you know what, I know ball valves. I know how to develop these. I know what the oil and gas market and power gen and the high pressure, I know those ball valves because I developed the stuff for Quadrant. And that's what he came and did the design for us. So he's still on staff, he's a consultant for us, but really his thing was to design and to say, hey, here's the guys that were the users that we had, and now we go out and we talk to these end users when we get on the AML. The one thing that'll come up, because it does, is it domestic? It's not. But we didn't build it in China. Our foundry is out of Taiwan. And why is that important? It's not on the taboo list. So if somebody sends you a list and says, no China, Taiwan, you can, that's where most of them are done anyway. It's fine, you're good. So that's the one thing that'll come up. We have letters, I have all that stuff as in a letter. If you ever needed hey, I need your meets the 51% Buy American letter, I got it. I get it to you. So, last, you saw this. This is just in a nutshell, like we talked about. Shows you each of the series, right? Each series based on the material. What this doesn't talk about is, hey, we could do exotics. This doesn't talk about alloy 20s. If I was doing this without the PowerPoint, I'd say, yeah, by the way, we can do alloy 20s, Hastelloy C276, blah, blah, blah. On the back, you got some more stuff. You got your temporary cones. What wasn't down here was line blinds. That's just an isolation valve. It's built to order. You won't get a lot of call-outs for it. Spectacle blinds. You ever someone call you for a spectacle blind? They'll call it a frying pan. They'll call it a paddle. They have a spectacle. All it is it goes between two flanges, right? It's just literally like a frying pan, and you stick it between two flanges. Not as super exciting, but we sell them. All built to order. So this is a really helpful piece though, because I don't even travel with a full catalog. You know, I just travel with this, and I can show an end user, this is what we do, and they'll go, oh yeah, oh yeah, lead-free bronze, oh, you know, they just pick it right out. And then they go to the website. The website's got your CAD drawings, it's got line drawings, it's got pressure drop charts. We didn't really get into that, but there are pressure drop charts available so that people can see, hey, if I'm at X GPM, what's the effect on a 4-inch basket strainer? What's going to happen? We always want to keep our pressure drop to about 1.5, 2 PSI pressure drop. We don't really want to exceed that, because what will happen is as the pressure starts building up, let's say we have 5 or 8 or 10 PSI pressure drop in a system, if it's going through that Y strainer, that screen is going to start to collapse because the pressure is getting too far. Even if you're cleaning it regularly, you've got a problem. You're undersized, or you're too tight on your mesh. You put like a 200 mesh line screen, that's a problem. It's a huge problem. So those are why you have the pressure drop charts. There's a screen options page on our website. It's in every section, whether it's Y strainers or basket strainers. It says screen options, and it gives you all the various screen options that your customer can choose from. 304, 316, and Monel are the ones we typically stock. But think about it, if someone's getting an alloy 20 strainer, Y strainer, or a basket strainer, what are they going to need? Probably need an alloy 20 screen. Goes without saying, right? So we can do those. There's special orders for us. We have to get the materials in and build it, but usually you're only talking about a week or two max. It's pretty quick. We don't stock a ton of that stuff though, just so you know.
Have you guys ever seen our price sheet? It's pretty extensive, and you guys are set up.
You guys got a program, here's your multiplier.
Set up with a multiplier sheet. You guys have seen that too.
And then you'll see how it breaks it out by like domestic and import, you know.
And Bob has all that information if anybody needs anything.
Yeah. But you know, we anything we can do to help you guys, just let me know. Let Andrew know.
I mean, it's difficult to get all our part numbers straight and everything like that. You've probably
Don't-
been down that road.
Yeah, don't worry about the part numbers. Honestly, that's a call to us. You'll call our
Okay.
inside sales and say, I need a 4-inch cast iron with a 50 mesh line screen, and it's got to be domestic. I'll give you the part number. Don't try. We have a how to build a part number thing, and you could muddle your way through it. That sucks. I mean, I do it for when people send me crosses. They're like, hey, cross this part, and I got to go look at Crane's part numbering system, and what's 3? What's this?
Does anybody have any questions on screens and mesh at all? We didn't really talk about that in detail too much. You okay with that? Okay.
Pretty basic stuff. I mean, we build those all day long. That's your reusables, right? Or your disposables, reusables, whatever you want to call it. That's what your customer is going to come in for after.
They'll tell you what they need.
Yeah. I bought this Y strainer 2 years ago, and the screen's getting a little ratty. I need a new one. Okay. What kind of screen? What's the perf? What's the item we're putting it into? Those are all like standard questions that we have to ask the customer. Sometimes they'll get a little pissy because we're telling them to identify what the strainer is. And we've had some design changes. You know, we offer an A7, 125-pound now. It used to be an A. Ugh, what a headache. B's are our domestic threaded 250-pound cast iron. B7s are the imports. Guess what? Different dimensions. Isn't that nice? So now you got to identify what it is, and then when you get all those questions, you're on the phone. You're like, every strainer manufacturer is faced with the exact same thing. There was never any ASME standard, right? Nobody ever said, hey, if you're building a 4-inch flange strainer, it's this face-to-face and the screen is X. No, everyone's different. We're different than Mueller. We're different than Titan, SureFlow, whoever else is out there. The big guys, just so you know, Keckley's been around, I don't know, it's like 105 years now. I've been around a long time. The two main ones are Mueller, that's one you see most often on specifications, and Keckley. Those are the two main guys. Titan is an offshoot of Mueller. They're the guys that got disgruntled when Mueller was sold to Watts, and they left, and they started their own company. Well, the Mueller and the Titans are very similar, in design and everything, because it was all ex-Mueller guys. But those are the two main guys. Mueller and Keckley those are the two guys, that's the two guys that fight most. Yeah, like I said, there's SureFlow. Ferguson, your friendly competitors at Ferguson have their own off-brand called FNW. Oh, that's a real horrible, that's crap, I mean, that stuff, that's right from the end users. I mean, I'd actually be talking to an end user, like, I bought this from Ferguson, this FNW, the thing fell apart, it's garbage, So, I mean, that's one you'll bump into. It's super cheap, let people buy it. Super cheap, but if it's going to break on 2 years, who wants to start taking these things out of line? All I want to do is change a screen. I don't have to take things out of line and put new ones in. So, anyway, I digressed. Whatever you guys need, let us know.
Yeah, so try not to treat it as a commodity, and maybe see if you can reach out and try to sell a little bit more of the product line. And remember that we are an AD, and remember that we have full support. If you have any little question, definitely call the factory and clarify whatever you need to clarify. So,
Always remember too, if your customer's buying a screen, chances are you need the gasket.
right.
It's like somebody at Burger King is buying a burger. You want fries with that? It's that, like, you're gonna need it.
Yeah.
Unless you're a gasket guy or you have a local gasket manufacturer, you're better off just to buy it from us. All gaskets are different too. Our gaskets are different than the ones that Mueller uses, that are different than, nobody standardized these things. We use flex italics, so you've probably seen the flex italics around. The flex italics are used on the 316 stainless and the carbon steel ones. You know what happens when you compress the cover on a Y strainer, that flex italic gasket gets compressed, and the minute you remove that cover, what happens? It's like a slinky, right? It just comes apart. So if you're selling a guy a screen, just remember, I usually will tell people when they go, you get a screen, yeah, you want a gasket? Oh yeah, I need one of those too. I mean, it's a low cost way just to make sure that the minute they take that cover off, they'll put it back on, they're not gonna have any problems. So, thanks for your time, guys. I know that,
Thank you.
like I said, this stuff isn't, it's not super exciting, but what the hell,
So if you ever have a big contractor and you want us to do a presentation, just let us know.
Yeah, no
And
problem.
next time Mike comes out, or I can do it myself.
He's bringing the hang glider instead of the plane.
Yeah, right.
I tell you what, man, it had no fun when you're coming in. The plane was, it's a smaller jet too. I mean, I actually got a little nauseous. I didn't barf or anything, but I sure
You pulled the
felt
bag
like
out.
Yeah, I'm like, because it's like there's a little too much shaking for me. And then you get one of these. It drops just a couple.
A couple 100 feet will do it to you.
Yeah, it was a shaky ride.
Anybody bothering you as far as local competition lately? No? Who do you guys compete with mostly?
Who's your biggest competitor? out
Deacon
there?
or
IVRI.
IBRI, of
Yeah.
course,
Yeah.
and they're Titan. They are Titan.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, they've been growing over the years a little bit. I don't do much with them at all, to be honest with you, so.
yeah, I mean, we get a little bit of competition from Deacon, very little from Jaeger.
Right.
So, but
Deacon's not aligned with us. IRIV isn't.
IBRI.
They're not aligned with us. They're tight guys.
If you look at the rest of my line card, I do a lot of special alloys and stainlesses, and the only other guy in AD on my line card would be AF Global. They're a large flange manufacturer. The carbon goes under the brand name Coffer. So they have a large inventory down in Houston. They're probably the largest flange manufacturer in the country. I don't know if you've ever heard of that brand name Coffer before.
I'll have to keep you in mind. I do have a customer that does a lot of low temp flanges. So,
We do a ton of low temp.
yeah, that's
Also, that company, Epic, stocks a lot of low temp flanges and,
Okay.
and low temp pipe and fittings as well.
yeah. Because it's always, it's like, I'll go months and I'll be getting it from the same vendor, and then it's like, oh, we're out of stock and we're waiting on the slow boat from wherever to come in. It's going to be another 2 months. Then I'm like, so then I'm back to trying to find.
Who do you normally use on that, Toyota or
Well, normally it's Allied.
Allied?
Fitting.
Yeah.
Datsun, we tried, this particular customer requires that all flanges sent into them have plastic flange covers.
Okay.
Okay, so not all, and most of the stuff, if it's not stock here, I try to ship direct because they won't pay freight.
Okay.
But I have their freight account number.
Okay.
So
Convenient.
yeah, so it's like if it ships direct, I want it to be, fine that when the receiving guys come in, they don't say, okay, we're rejecting this because of flange covers
Right.
not being on there. So, but yeah, if that's the case, I mean,
I-
Allied Datsun sometimes.
I used to work for 10 years for Datsun, so I'm very familiar with those guys.
Yeah.
Who's your salesperson there?
At
Datsun.
Datsun,
Kim, your Canon?
I think that's probably the outside person. She's come in a couple times and talked to Bob.
No, it's Yvonne. Yvonne would be the outside girl.
Okay.
Kim's inside.
Oh, well, the inside person I deal with is Tim Holland.
Tim, okay.
Yeah, he used to work for, I guess, Balfit.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
But yeah, I think Yvonne probably mentioned Kim before, and I said, well, I usually deal with Tim.
That's your-
But yeah, I mean, usually it's those two because, especially because they're an AD. But
Right.
then there's used to be Global Stainless, now it's Ta Chen.
Right.
They're kind of ones that I go to where I can't find it, and usually they have it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's always a toss up where if they can get it right, where it's like they'll get the product right, but then they're not following shipping instructions.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So.
Well, Epic has a ton of low temp, and AF Global can make it. And also, if you need fittings, Taylor Forge can actually make low temp fittings. too,
Okay.
Domestically, yeah.
Okay.
So just send me your inquiries, and I'll get the right salesman to you.
Okay.
And then once you get the salesman, just you're better off just forwarding directly to them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I'll do that.
Cool.
Any other questions for Mike?
Usually it happens when you get the call. That's when the question.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah.
Did anybody happen to, any customers of mine that might be a possibility for the ball valve?
So goes into a little more detail. This really gets more on the ball valves. You'll see there's a real nice chart in there. I'll leave some extras here too. In that chart, it's basically showing you all the stuff we talked about. Boy, man, that makes it real easy because you just go down and check off what they're asking for on the spec.
Well, and you do have the. I mean, that was my
Oh,
other
yeah.
thing, is with the actuation, because I know that not all the valves that they have are just going to be handled ones. That
Yep.
they have some actuated ones, but this in itself would be a great tool for Vic to go in and talk to. He has to get it approved by the engineers.
Yep.
Sherry, the purchaser.
The actuation, we've had it now for just under 2 years. When we first started, and this presentation was done specifically to address all manual stuff. Now that we have the actuation, there's a little bit more involved. If you look at that back page, you see there's all kinds of solenoids, and I don't get into that because it's so detailed. And even for me, I have to have our engineering look at it. I can look at it and go, yeah, I think we could do that, but I give it off to somebody and then they take care of it. But yeah, we do offer actuation. And just so I didn't make mention of it in the presentation. We opened an office. I'll give you the history first. Quadrant was in Louisiana, and we have not only do we got the guy to design the ball valves, we had his second in command who took over when he left. He's one of our regional guys, specifically handles Denny Knight, handles all the ball valves, right? So he lives in Louisiana, so he's traveling all over the place. Then they hired this girl, Steffi, who also worked for Quadrant, and because we service so much within the Houston and Oklahoma, those markets are big for oil and gas, we actually opened a location in Broussard, Louisiana. So if you look at our website, you won't see the Niles branch because that's just warehouse. You'll see Skokie and Broussard, Louisiana. So there, out of the Broussard, there is warehousing. There's some Y strainers, not a lot, primarily ball valves, and that's where the actuation is done. And they hired somebody to come in and do all the actuation. Used to be in Skokie, but the guy that we had who came from Sharp ended up leaving, and when he left, it just made sense to consolidate it with the guys that knew the ball valves. They lived and breathed all the quadrants, so it really made it a lot easier. So that's where the ball valves are shipping out of. We do have some inventory in Skokie, but the vast majority, 85-90% of it's in Broussard, and all the actuation, all the parts, all stuff. To do the actuation, just to give you an idea, as long as we have the ball valve in stock, all that stuff is there, we can actuate probably within a week or less. So it's a pretty quick turnaround on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that would be a big major selling point with them on the lead time.
Yeah.
I mean, but if we can show them that we can be more cost competitive to where not only where we're at, but to where, I mean, it's a matter of if we can get, like, again, it's all timing, so it might be a couple months till I get the next order or something, but once that happens, if I can jump on it and get somebody to even go with Vic to them and say, okay, I'm going to set up a time to meet with the engineer that's, that handles the valves, and we can show them, hey, it meets all these criteria that they're looking for, because I know that one of the API numbers is what's on the Jamesbury.
Probably 607.
So,
I'm
but yeah,
sure of it. Definitely 607.
so
So they do actually hold their own AML.
yeah, I believe so.
And then you gotta get everything approved.
So yeah,
Okay.
But-
That might be perfect for us then.
yeah. I mean, it's and that's the thing. They make up a drawing for everything. So on their drawing, it says James. There's not going to be somebody else that's going to go in there because it's a lot of. it is a lot of work to get them to do it, but
Well,
yeah.
It's shocking that we have that many approvals on that page, this quickly. Within 4 years, that's a hell of a list.
A lot of that has to do with the relationships that the guys from
They don't feel that, at least that's always been my thing, is that they don't feel that there is any competition out there for them.
Yeah.
So they say it's 8 weeks, it's 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And everyone just has
wait.
to live
No,
with it.
yeah, no, there's no wavering with them.
No.
Yeah, I know. Well, listen, we've had a lot of that come our way. One of the things that's not in those slides too, just another thing that I was thinking of as we're talking about, is the API 641. You'll start to see that coming up on your AMLs and on your specs. API 641 is about fugitive emissions. So the EPA came out and they said, hey, we can't have any leakage out into the atmosphere, right? This is hazardous gases and stuff like that. So the API board, American Petroleum Institute of people that put all these things together, came up with API 641, and our valves are the first ones that got tested to it because Denny, our regional guy, who's the ball valve, and Al, who's the guy that designed them, sit on the API board. So they knew that this was coming down the pike. Mm-hmm. So we were one of the first ball valve manufacturers to go. Now the other guys are going to do it. They're going to have to, because the minute the EPA comes in with a monitor and they go, look at that reading. That's way too much parts per million that's leaking into the atmosphere. So you're going to start hearing more about API 641. All you need to know is all the ball valves have been tested, and we now carry the API 641 certification. So that's another thing that could open the door if yeah. So if they have something that, we've talked to chemical manufacturers in St. Louis. We're having the EPAs come in there and you got to take this thing out. This is way too much leakage. They have a little, they have a little gauge that tests that. So, just things to kind of be aware of. Like I said, we're ahead of it because of the people that we have within our company that sit on that board, and it's given us a little bit of a selling advantage. So, good to know.
Okay.
Got to add that into those slides too. Because we're talking about it, API 641. Cool.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Really
Very much
appreciate
for
it.
your time.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Let's get some orders.
That's what they say.
Andrew's really pushing.